legends away. Birthday sideline views, breaking down the latest news. No holds barred, just our take. This is where legends awake. Friday nights and Sunday games, we know all the biggest names. Huddled with the crew we trust. Football feeds the fire in us. Fans alive, we unite under the stadium lights. Every team, every score, we always hunger for more. Friday nights and Sunday games, we know all the biggest names. Huddle with the crew we trust. Football feeds the fire in us. Fan day morning, feeling alive. Jerseys on, we're ready to die. In the fan zone, we'll come on. Let's cheer loud, let's stand tall. Back and forth, the stories fly. Who's the best? Fans can't lie. Touchdowns, tackles, we discuss. Feel the rush, come join us.
Hey, welcome to Fans on Live. I am Tim Capper along with Scott Burke, and welcome to a look at everything from the AF1. With us this week, a guy that I've been wanting to talk to ever since he came into the league, because I know I got a little bit of, just a tiny bit of history with this dude, but just a little bit. We have Billings Outlaw kicker Dean Faithfull. Dean, thanks for joining us, bud, over on Fans on Live.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
One thing I wanted just to let everybody know about for you, I mean, it is obviously if they don't know you personally, but obviously they can hear from your accent. Obviously, you're from England. One thing I wanted to ask you specifically, because how did you really get involved in football in general? Because I know obviously some people who do know you've had a stint in the CFL and now in the AF1, but how did you get involved in, I guess we call it gridiron football?
By accident is the honest answer. Initially, I had a soccer career before and never really thought about kicking a football. And, I really do wish I'd thought about it, 15, 20 years earlier. But yeah, I was meeting with an old soccer coach, and the story went that, we were having coffee, and next thing he gets a text, a coach needs a kicker. He recommended I'd be good because he knew I had a strong leg. But at the time I was 33, turning 34. And I was like, Coach, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean become a kicker? And he was obviously very positive about it. Said, why not? Why not? You've kept yourself fit. You'd be great at it. So long story short, the next day I was in Florida and I had a flight to London, and I actually cancelled the flight to attend the tryout. And so the coach came, I hit some field goals. I'd never kicked a football before. I just kind of naturally did what I thought would be good. And, I boomed it. I made the field goals, and then kickoffs went far. And so the coach essentially said, we'll teach you the rest. And by the time we got back to his office, he'd offered me a scholarship. But yeah, so that's how I got into it. I was supposed to go to Florida Tech for football. They cancelled their program during COVID, and then I ended up at CSU Pueblo through the transfer portal. So it kind of happened really quick. I was training myself during COVID. I mean, once that opportunity came, I was hooked, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to learn this, and I'm going to get really good." And so I ordered balls off Amazon, kicked in rugby fields in England throughout the whole of COVID, And as soon as they said, right, you can fly, I hopped on a plane to Colorado. So that's kind of the short story.
That's cool. By the way, kicking at Pueblo, did you find that uh, obviously everybody knows it's the Mile High City in Denver. Did the higher elevation there in Colorado help you when it came to your kicks?
I don't know. I people say that. Obviously, I do kick well here, but it's funny. Like my furthest field goal in training was in Dallas that I hit from kind of 75 yards. So I've done that here too. I've hit, in practice, I've hit 70
Mm,
yarders, 75 yard. And so I think it does help a little bit, but I mean, I feel like not significantly, in my
mm,
opinion. If you got a strong
mm.
leg, you got a strong leg. But yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
and I don't know what it is because I'm just, we're talking on the same night that the CFL had its global draft. And I know that that's very
Yeah.
close and dear to your heart too. And you're 37, and what is it about? I guess we could say guys who played soccer or Aussie rules football able to, as you said, extend their career and go from whether it be Aussie rules or soccer into playing either, any type of, I guess we could say American or Canadian football.
Yeah, I think the obvious sort of transition of skills is there. We grew up kicking something, in Europe or the rest of the world, whether that's football, soccer, rugby, or in Ireland, they got the Gaelic football, which is,
Mhm.
and then obviously Australia has their Australian rules football. So all of us from those parts of the world grew up kicking something. And so, like, those skills are quite easy to transition. And as far as like having a longer career or being able to do it at an older age, again, I think I'm not getting tackled every second. I can manage my body well, especially after games, and I think as long as you do that, your only real risk is injuring that one leg or your standing leg because it's a very repetitive operation.
hmm.
Right? It's very the same movement. You learn how to do the same movement over and over and over again. So that's the only real risk is that injury. Um, and of course, like people wonder about my age and power, but I'm still hitting 70 yarders if I want to when I go out onto the field. So my power is still there. So I think as long as I stay strong and healthy, I can have a long career. So it just kind of makes sense with not having to run around a lot, getting tackled a lot. We can transition those skills and really be successful in that position.
Oh yeah, for sure. Speaking of, you're talking about injuries and stuff like that. Have you ever had what you would consider a significant injury?
I mean, yes, to be honest, I during my time at CSU Pueblo, I actually tore my adductor longus, which in layman's term is your groin, right? Your
Okay.
adductor joins that big tendon there, and I tore mine off the bone 4 centimeters.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
overuse. I actually did it on a kickoff, one of my final games for CSU Pueblo, and it was funny. That was probably 2021, and the doctor kind of said, "Dean, I don't think you'll kick it at an elite level again." And I said, "Do the surgery," and we fixed it up. I actually had surgery twice because I slipped in the shower, and I just said, "Right, I'm gonna prove her wrong." And I had that phone call with the doctor when I got signed with the Elks and said, "Look, I've been signed into the CFL," and to be honest, since then it's been fine. I've been as strong as ever. So yeah, that is quite a typical thing. Your adductor, your groin, your hips. Those are all the things that go on kickers. Um, but I'm
I
good. I'm
I
good
can
now.
I can only Scott, just hearing that alone
Mhm.
made me cringe, and
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not the one who had that happen to me, so
I was just thinking about hearing about that tryout that you just walked on with basically no experience kicking one of these and got yourself signed, with the school. I mean, that's no joke. That had to have been an impressive tryout.
Yeah, I mean, I look back and think how fortunate I was to be in that position. But the coach gave me a chance, and I'd never seen a kickoff tee before. I put the ball on top, and he just said, "Right, kick it. And I think he kind of said afterwards, his feedback was, "You probably have the strongest leg I've seen in person." And he's coached a lot of college guys, and he said, "We can, we can teach you the rest." And so he saw something in me, and so I'm very grateful for that coach at Florida Tech at the times. Steve Englehart was his name. He saw something in me that other people might not because of my age, but he said, "No, I don't care about your age. You can kick a football. We'll give you a shot." So that's kind of how it happened.
In 2023, Dean, you got selected second overall in the CFL's global draft by the Edmonton Elk. Um, tell me about your time in Edmonton. I mean, I will admit I saw you play in person when the Owls were there in 24. So I did see you there. I saw, and just tell me about your experience in Edmonton, especially for those who've never been to Edmonton, never seen maybe a CFL game, or what it's like kicking on a 110-yard field versus 100, or in the Arena League, a 50-yard field.
Yeah, I loved my time in Edmonton, and I wish I could have had more time there and more time in the CFL, and who knows, maybe I will. And just obviously grateful to play in that league again. It was a completely different experience, jumping into a professional environment at 36, and was technically the oldest player to get drafted in the CFL at the time. And but for me, I was still learning, but I didn't have that. I understood with my age, I didn't have that luxury of being like, he's got time to learn. I knew I had to go in and be good and perform, or I'd be out pretty quick. And so I guess a lot of people from the outside probably didn't ever see that, but it's like I was learning the professional game at 36 years old. And I'd have some time in Pueblo, but I'd only had 10 games in college. And so everything was a learning, obviously learning a new game too, different rules in the CFL, different field size. That was great. I love how the CFL still has a place for kickers, very much so, because of the field size. So if you're on kickoff, you've got to be good. You've got to be accurate. You've got to hit space. You've got to be versatile, and then on the field goals, if you miss a long one, they're going to run it back down your throat, and that can be costly. So I love that side to the kicking game in the CFL. So yeah, absolutely loved Edmonton. Like turning up to that stadium, it's a 65,000 seat stadium, I think. All right, we didn't get 65,000, but I played in front of 36,000, and hit a game winner in front of 35,000. And so for me, those memories, I mean, no one can take that away from me. And I'm, those are things I'm going to remember forever. I've got my game winning football I can see in front of me on my shelf. And so those are things I'm going to keep. And yeah, just loved my time in Edmonton. Loved the game. I had a great relationship with the fans. I think I'm going to miss that for sure. I did lots of stuff in the community with my own coaching. So the CFL is kind of a special league in that you're closer to the fans. Much like arena football, you can get close to the fans and get to know fans. And so I loved it. So Edmonton as a city is an interesting place. I think it's the most northern city with the highest population, something like that. So it's
I think so. Yeah, because I think Fort McMurray, which is farther north, it's slightly smaller. But yeah, Edmonton is right up there for sure.
Right up there, yeah. So it's just a different world. But yeah, I loved my time there. Loved Edmonton, loved the CFL. So that was nothing but good memories.
And by the way, I'm going to correct myself. I actually saw you in 2023,
23.
where you had a missed field goal returned on you.
Yeah. That was a tough game. My family came to that game.
Oh no!
The one game they saw,
Never fails,
And
right?
I rolled my ankle on the first kickoff. I don't know if you remember, like I had a season where under Chris Jones, the Elks wanted to do a bunch of pop-up field kickoffs. So a lot of people were like, "Can he kick it far?" Like they didn't even know. Obviously, I can kick it into the end zone, but I was asked to do little 50-yard pop-ups to try and catch the opposition, or to cover better. And so on the first kickoff, I rolled my ankle. I remember running off, and I got the athletic trainer to strap me up. And then the field goals were tough after that, and I was sort of, if you don't go into field goals and extra points confidently and with conviction, that's what can happen. You kind of like, I try to baby the ball in, and it just snuck wide, and then run straight down our throat. So yeah, not my favorite memory, because I was trying to chase him back with a funny ankle as well. So
I
yeah.
was about to say, considering me being an Alouettes fan, I mean, I know who you were trying to catch. I was like, I think you're trying to cut him off slightly, how kickers or DBs will do and try to cut him at a certain angle. And I was like, is Dean going to catch him?
I got in front of him, and then he kind of just did his little. He was gone, and that was that. Yeah. So that's the fun part of the CFL, right? That's the exciting part for fans. That's an exciting part.
Obviously, there is a slight difference. Slight, for those who don't know, there's a slight difference in between NCAA balls, college balls, and the CFL balls themselves. I mean, it's a slight difference. Learning originally on US, we'll call them US football game balls. Was there any? How long did it take you to get used to the slight difference in the size in the CFL balls?
Looks like we got him froze.
Dean, did you hear
But
me? Did you hear me?
There we
I
go.
missed.
Did-
It went. How long did you get used to? And then it paused.
Okay. How long did it take? How long did it take you to get used to kicking a CFL size ball, even though it's just slightly bigger than what it is in the US?
Not long. I think it's nicer. I think the order goes for me. Yeah, US college footballs, CFL balls, and then the NFL ball is probably nicest to kick.
Mm.
It's softer. It feels like you're actually kicking something. So the CFL being a little bit bigger was actually nicer for my foot. I enjoyed kicking them. Yeah, they were good.
So where's the arena ball fit in that hierarchy?
The arena ball is actually quite nice, and I've heard in previous years it's not been as great to kick, but they've got new balls this season, as I understand, right? And actually, yeah, very similar to between a college ball and a Duke, an NFL ball. But I know I like kicking them. I've had to go in and make sure, I like the balls pumped up, because they throw me some soft, deflated balls sometimes for kickoff. And so I think I'm working on, asking the rest, can we make sure we have some, footballs with good air in it? Because when I kick it, when you've got a strong leg and you kick it hard, if you kick a softball, it wants to balloon off where it wants. So, but no, I like the balls. So as long as they're pumped up, I like the AFL balls. They're nice to kick.
And if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dean, I remember them having them last year, but there's no difference between a regular game ball and a K ball, is there, this year?
No, you kind of get chucked whatever you can get, but I've tried to have my own cable for kickoff. So it's something, I've spoke to a few kickers in the league. We chatted, and I think it's something the AFL could perhaps help us out with, is that it's not a bad idea to have some cables, because if you're chucked a ball straight out of the bag, out of the packaging, brand new, they're not as great to kick. And in my opinion, as much as we emphasize the kicking game in the AFL with the nets, with the skinny posts, like I think we should have kicker balls just to make the standard great, because every kicker gets chucked different footballs, and so maybe in the future that's something I can try and help out with and say, because the NFL do it, CFL, we can throw our own balls in. We prep cables, but in general, the games I've played so far, I just get chucked whatever I get given, and
Okay. Well,
yeah. So
I think, Scott, we need to reach out to Gary Compton, let him know specifically what one of his players is looking for to improve the game itself.
There you go.
And, him, Jerry Kurz, Steve Titus. I know Steve will have some pull.
And I know these guys watch. These guys do watch the show
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
right.
Speaking of Steve Titus, Billings Outlaws, you were signed on April 10th, Dean. And this is the story that I really wanted to hear from you because, I knew your pedigree in kicking. I knew you'd been in the CFL. And when you got first and foremost, when you got signed, I mean, had you watched a game of indoor football before they gave you a ring?
I'd definitely seen clips, and I'd seen other indoor leagues, and just what clips from you see on social media. So I had an understanding of the game. But yeah, really, once I knew I had an opportunity to come play, kind of I did my own homework and spent a few days really digging into and watching film. So yeah, it's relatively new to me still, to be honest.
Yeah. And as I asked you, as we were, you and I were just chatting on social, I'm curious to know about, what was the process? Who gave you a call from Billings? Was it Coach Walker? Was it somebody else? Was it the league itself? Who gave you that call and asked you to sign with the Billings Outlaws?
So I have an agent who I've been working with for a couple of years, and it's been the off season. I've been a free agent, so we're in touch all the time. We're looking at where are the opportunities, looking at the CFL, looking at this, and
got a feeling.
I expressed my interest to him that. Sorry, is that my connection?
There we go. Your audio was there, so you're still good.
Yeah. So where was I? I was saying
with your agent, the off season.
Yeah, off season. I'd expressed my interest if something in the arena league came up, I'd be interested. And it was him that contacted me, and then I was put in touch with Coach Walker. So then I had a conversation with Coach, and then we went from there. That was that. I was like, for me, if you know me, I'm a positive person. I'm looking for opportunities. I'm trying to maximize my abilities, my time, and I think that attitude's got me where I've got. And so when the opportunity come up, it was a no-brainer. I was coaching in Colorado. I've been training. I've been keeping fit. So I always make sure I stay ready. I even kicked on skinny posts this off season. When I was in England, I made my own 9-foot posts, and just in case. So and then the call came, and so it all turned out the way it should. So.
That's cool because as anybody who's followed arena football long enough, Dean, they know, especially with having the nets in play, if you have a good kicker who can learn the intricacies of the nets, be able to take advantage of the bar balls, or with having the available the deuce now available in AF1, that's gonna just improve league play across the board. And I think that's one thing that Scott and I had been really hard on because we didn't think that the kickers in the league were up to snuff, so to speak, when it came to being able to be real arena football kickers. And when I heard that you were signed, I said, okay, the league's taking the Outlaws are taking the right steps in order to improve the kicking game, etc. Now, you got signed on April 10th. You just played a couple of days after that. Did you have any chance to practice on the nets, practice on your kicks? What type of practice did you get before you actually played your first AF1 game?
Yeah, I didn't have any opportunity to kick on the nets or even posts. I turned up in Billings on the Saturday, or the Friday, and then the Saturday I was working with the snapper and holder just against a wall that we had at the training facility, and just getting used to the holder and explaining to the holder what I like, and which is for him, for Braden, that was a new job too. So that first game was my first game as a kicker and Braden's first time holding. So that was a really interesting game, and against the Firebirds, who, you know, clearly are one of the best teams around right now. So yeah, I was kind of chucked in the deep end with it, but nothing I'm not used to. I think my age helps with that. You know, you have that maturity where you're like, well, what could really go wrong? I'm going to come out alive at the end of it. I'm going to be fine. And so I have that attitude. And yeah, so I turned up. We turned up in New York, and then we had a chance to, you know, during the warm up, I got out as early as I could and just hit a few. And so that was a learning curve for me that day too, because it was completely new, you know. And
What
yeah.
is your first impression when you come out there and you see these big nets across the field from you, only 58 yards away? Like, what's your first thought about just looking at that structure and how your job changes?
It looks cool. Right? I must admit, once I walked in the arena, I was like, this looks fun. And so I love that the Arena League has those nets, because again, it makes our job important. Like you said, if you can figure out how to manipulate the nets, if you can hit a deuce every single time, then happy days. But yeah, it looked a lot of fun. And like I think that's where my soccer background helps too, because that doesn't worry me. Like, you know, I have to change my approach on kickoff now, because in the CFL they want me to kick it 4.2 seconds high. I can't do that in the Arena League because I'm going to hit the scoreboard, which is what I did last week on one of the kickoffs. So I've had to learn to change my technique to drill the ball. And the last game, I think it all kind of came together, and I smashed everyone off the net and got a deuce. So it's taken some time to learn, and I've had to do that live in a game. But I guess that's just the nature. Again, that's the nature of the game too. Like, you have to turn up and perform. I could have turned up and missed every extra point and scuffed my kickoffs, and then maybe that's my opportunity gone. I can't blame preparation. I have to be ready to kind of make that happen. So it's been fun learning, and I still am. But I felt like last game I was as comfortable as I felt since I signed. So
Your inaugural game in arena football, you were perfect. You were perfect.
yes,
Yeah, I think you caught one net in your very first game, but you were perfect on extra points and on your field goal tries. A little bit rough in your second, but talking about the one this past week again, as you said, you seem to be getting used to the net system and where everything is, and you're having a little bit more experience and on the nets themselves and practicing and doing what you can do. And I will admit, and we're talking about this pre-show, Dean. Is like we were talking about how sometimes, you know, the balls can, depending on what the ball is, whether sometimes they can, you know, shank or shift a little bit. That's kind of what your deuce did, because at first I'm thinking that thing's not going to go through, at least from the angle that I saw, and then you bank it off the upright in for a deuce.
yeah. To be honest, have you seen the behind view on film yet?
They
It
didn't. No,
kind
they
of,
didn't show it on Evergreen. It wasn't available.
I hit it pretty true, which is what I focus on doing. You know, Coach Walker, as I went out there, he said, "We need a deuce. Give me your first one now." So I was extra kind of lasered in to right. You know, and I could have even cut across the ball more to go more central, but I hit it really true, and it just, I don't know if you don't see it on the TV view, but on our practice footage, I actually squat down and I'm kind of leaning, watching the ball, like trying to,
Will it in?
help. Yeah, trying to will it in. I'm like, because I can see it's going, but I'm thinking it's just going to hit the post. But luckily, it crept in, clipped the post, and went in. So yeah, obviously buzzing to get my first deuce, and at a critical time where we sort of started to build some momentum. And although we lost that momentum pretty quick on the next play. But yeah, no, you're right. I feel more comfortable. Yeah, that first game, I was getting underneath the ball, kicking it like I would in the CFL, trying to get height. And I practiced. I came back to Denver, and when I got to Billings, practiced really driving those balls. So now I feel like on kickoff, I'm only going to get better and better, just because I feel confident now with the correct technique. So
I can imagine, Scott, that if Dean's able to consistently either hit the deuces, hit the nets, or if Dean can get into a rhythm of hitting bar balls,
Mhm.
you could become one of the best kickers in this league, Dean, for sure. As I said, you're quickly adapting to this game.
Well, and
yeah,
I'm sorry, dude.
sorry.
I say we Tim mentioned earlier we've been highly critical of the kicking game across the league this year. And one thing I want to bring is this week was a total 180 for the league. The kicking game across the board was so much better, especially in playing against Salina. They couldn't kick off into the end zone in their previous game, so their kicking game greatly increased. Like I said, across the board, every team. I don't know if they just wholesale new kickers, if everybody's just figuring it out, but that's one thing I got to give the league credit and the teams credit for bringing in these guys and getting them overnight, changing the special teams game in this league. It was so much better this week.
It was good, and like I know the other Bailey, the other kicker for Salina. I trained with him in Texas years back, and so when I saw him on the roster, I knew that okay, they drastically improved, because obviously we talked about previous games of Salina and their kicking game, but once I saw Bailey was on there, I even said to coach, like, be prepared, he'll hit the net. I knew he had a strong leg, so yeah, I think it's great to see more of those caliber type kickers, and obviously Albany have got one in Henry now, who's been in the league a while now, and he's really figured out the league. And so I think it's great. I'm glad to be a part of that. Hopefully I'm a part of that, whether that's however long I'm here, like I'm part of that growth, and other great kickers can come through and say, actually, this is a place I want to play, because I love it. I've enjoyed it. I think maybe kickers don't know that those opportunities, or they see it as a lesser opportunity, but it's not. Like, it's a really fun game to play, especially in our league, the Arena League with the nets. Like, you can really utilize a good kicker, right? And you guys have realized that. And I think that the Albany are showing that the best teams have good kickers. There's no great team and they have a average kicker. You've got to have a great kicker too, because then your whole game just becomes even better. So
It's funny, and I agree with you, Dean. It's because going back and looking through arena football history, um, let's put it this way: it was a kicker with the Colorado Crush.
Mhm.
His name was Clay Rush, and because he consistently kicked the ball on kickoffs over the net, they created the Clay Rush rule. So they had to change the rule on where the ball was spotted, because if he put it over, it went to the 20. If it went off the net, it's like it would normally be. So kickers in arena football really have made a huge impact ever since the league was born. So, or ever since the game was born.
What do you think of Tommy Freevert and his onside kicks for Philly that were just
Something.
absolutely deadly, and just they
Something,
recovered all of them?
Yeah. But the one thing I did see that you mentioned, I didn't see. We didn't see your kick of the deuce from behind. One thing I did see that they showed on television was your celebration. Tell me about your celebration.
Well, that started in the CFL. Obviously, my famous celebration in the CFL was the Queen's Wave, and I saved that for very special moments. But it was just the thing, like, the guys knew when I turned up to Billings, the team already knew, and half of them came up to me doing the wave, or they'd come up and do the cup of tea. So a couple of players have said, you hit a deuce, you got to do the cup of tea celebration. And so I said, yeah, sure. So that's where that came from. It's just the very English cup of tea, and just yeah. I guess I have to play on that the the English thing. It's a bit of fun. Bit of fun.
I will admit it, and if people haven't seen it, by the way, and what Dean is talking about, it's on social media. What Dean did with the Queen's Wave was iconic in the CFL. No matter where he came, what city he was kicking in, uh, it was iconic. That's and it will be remembered to this day. You know, I know a few people who are longtime Elks fans, Dean, and you know who I'm talking about, and it's yeah, they remember they will remember everything that you did. And I gotta ask this because I don't think many people know about this. Is what was I think it was it your wife who created a T-shirt for you with a specific saying on it?
No, so it started. She made her own banners,
Okay.
but it actually started by someone in the crowd I didn't know had a big banner. "God save the Dean"
Okay.
was the sign, and then the next following weeks, people had T-shirts with "God save the Dean" on, and it became a thing. So that was fun, and that's what I'm talking about. Like the good relationship I had with the fans was just that was special. And yeah, one moment, but you know, no one can take that one moment away. So
No,
hopefully
no.
I'll get another wave. If I hit a game winner in the Arena League, you're going to see the wave.
Oh
You're going to see the
yes.
There
wave.
you go.
Can't wait.
You're going to see.
And I'm waiting for Steve Titus to go ahead and create those God Save the Dean T-shirts and sell them in the boutique.
That would be great, wouldn't it? I think. But yeah, no, that would be fun, and I just want us to start being the Billings we should be and start winning games, and then we can get some T-shirts out. All right.
And we've heard some stuff. I mean, Billings. I will admit, I think Scott will agree with me. Billings is playing under what they usually do because we know with Coach Walker and having the background that he does in arena football, and Steve Titus trusting him enough to do what he needs to do in order to get you guys a win and a potential championship. Um, yeah, I don't see Billings going on. You know, I see Billings breaking their streak sooner or later, obviously. But obviously, it'll be nice as you're saying to get your first win under the belt, right?
Yeah, I want to win. I want to experience that as a team, and obviously, as a kicker, there's two games to the game, and I can only do as much as I can do, and that's what I felt like I did last game. I did everything I could do.
Mhm.
You always feel like, could I give more? Could I have hit a couple more deuces? Could I? But I did as much as I could do, and I just hope we get that win so I can be part of the team win as well, and we will.
Right.
We will. We've got a good bunch of fellas. Like I said, I'm loving it. We'll get that win for sure.
So you
Um,
mentioned Albany earlier in the kicker
Yeah.
out there. He got to have a lot of fun this last week. Scoring 100
Yeah,
points in the
so-
game, and he was responsible for a lot of those points. Hitting the deuce, quite a few of those, but also specifically doing a drop kick extra point. Those were 2 points. Is that something you've ever practiced? Is that something you can do?
It's something I can do. I've practiced a little bit. It's something that obviously since signing, it's I've added it to my practice a little bit, but still would like to get a little bit better at it. But again, I think it's something I could learn quickly and apply. And as soon as coach has that trust, maybe we can apply it, because that's like you said, it's a good way to get points.
Oh, yeah,
And
the
Henry,
team's offense scores 6 and you score 4. I mean, that's between the deuce and the extra point. That's a big swing.
huge. Yeah, I know. You got to have the right kicker, and then you've got to have confidence to be executed. I think it's just very natural for people to think, extra point, go on and just go kick the extra point. But I love it. I wish they'd add more things to the kicking game. I mean, I'm not sure what, but give me as much as possible. Like last game, I felt like I almost had everything except for a drop kick. I had to, I had an onside, tried, we weren't successful. A squib. So there's a squib hit on purpose because we were trying to avoid, because they were doing pretty well on kickoff return, and a deuce. I felt like I had 2 tackles. So I felt like I had a bit of everything in that game, and so hopefully I'll just get more and more chances to be on the field.
So are you type of kicker that actually eagerly looks for tackles, or is it something you just, all right, I have to do this?
No, I enjoy it. Like I even when I was at the Elks, I would ask, can someone teach me how to tackle? And they'd laugh and say, go away, kicker. And then when they did the tackle drills, I would just sneak in and join the back of the line and tackle the pads and do a bit. No one ever taught me really, but I enjoy the physical side of the game. And I was the same in soccer. My soccer career was based on physicality as a defender. And so I enjoy that part. But I also understand if I get injured, there's no one that's going to back me up in the moment. So I get when coach says, Dean, stay out of it. But in the moment, you can't. Like, that was the first, I remember coach saying that in pre-game. Just look after yourself. Stay out of tackles. First kickoff, I jump in and, all right, it wasn't a big leaping jump, but I bodied him off into the boards. And then a couple of kickoffs later, I'm slide tackling across the floor. And so, I can only imagine coach is probably thinking, what's the kicker doing? But no, I enjoy it. I hope, you are that last man. You're there for a reason. And it's like, I feel like I have a duty to the team to do my best. Even if I fail, if I jump and I hit nobody, like, I've got to try, because then you gain a bit of respect from your teammates, and they know, right, Dean he's one of us. Like, he's ready to go. So I think it's important as a kicker to show that you're willing to help as you can. But obviously you don't want to get injured, because we are a bit softer. I'm not used to getting tackled. So my body's not built, I feel I'd say to you, I'm strong, but I'm not getting tackled every day. So I understand that my body's not quite as tough as other players, but no, I enjoy it. I'm going to keep trying to tackle.
It's a lot like being that soccer defender, where you are that kind of that last man between them and the goal. I mean, exactly, you either step up or you give them a free shot.
I just can't. It couldn't even cross my mind. Even if I went into that play going, I'm not going to tackle. Like, in the moment, I have to do something. Like, instinctively, I'm like, I can't just stand there and go, well, go and have 6 points. That's embarrassing on me. Then I'm on the highlight reel, kickoff, return, touchdown. I don't want to be part of that. So I want to be part of the video that says kicker tackles. So, but yeah, so very similar to soccer.
So we were talking about the drop kick here, Dean, in arena football history, including with Nell this past week. There's only 17 kickers have only made one or multiple drop kick 2-point extra points. Okay. So if you could do that, you'll be in rarefied air, a very elite group, needless to say. Mm-hmm. And if you're able to figure it out, and Scott, maybe Dean could become the next Brian Mitchell, because Brian back in '94, would you believe, he kicked 18 of them in a season.
Season? Wow.
In a season, yeah.
Hey, Tim, I know you looked this up the other day. When's the last time a field goal was made off a drop kick? Do you remember that one?
Oh God, yeah.
Because that's a 4-point play. If you get a field goal off,
4-point play there, Dean. Yeah, it's a drop kick field goal.
Okay, so yeah, I need to get practicing.
It's been a while. There've been very few made in arena football history. Obviously, we've appreciated your time, Dean. We'll just ask you a couple more questions, and we'll let you finish for the evening. What does Dean Faithfull do at night? Who is Dean Faithfull, not the kicker?
Okay, so I'm not going to talk about coaching because that's kicking related, but I love to coach. I love to, I love working with the kids, and that's something I'm always trying to do in my off time, is help the next generation through. But aside from sports, I'm a bit of a nature boy, so I do love the fact that I get to live in Colorado in the off season. I love the fact that I'm in Montana because I'm a bit of a nature boy. I'm not a city boy, so I love to get out. I love to go for walks, hike. I've avoided skiing for obvious reasons, snowboarding, just because I know I'll injure my legs. So one day I'll hit the slopes. But yeah, big nature boy. Love to read. I'm always reading books about how I can be a better coach and mentally stronger, because then I can help other people in that way. So yeah, that's pretty much it. During the season, I'm probably, my fiance, she's not actually my wife yet. My
Okay.
fiance would probably tell you I'm a different person during season. And, this off season, I've been very relaxed and go out and kick, and I kept fit and do whatever I want to do. But now we're playing, I kind of keep very focused on football. I'm already thinking about Saturday in Kansas, and until the season ends, I'm going to be in that mode again. So for me, I do all the right stuff: go home, sleep, eat, train. Very boring. But at 37, I also feel like I have to do that. I can't. I have to look after myself. I don't want to give anyone excuses. I don't want anyone saying, "Well, yeah, he is old," because they can't say that at the moment. I'm 37, but I kick like a 22-year-old. So until that stops, I want to remain that high level as I can. So I'm pretty boring in my off time.
I mean, and you should know this, Dean. I mean, considering how long like Louis Pasaglia kicked in the CFL, you can kick into your mid-40s, whether no matter what you're playing. So indoor football, whether indoor football or back in the CFL, again, kicking into your 40s. As long as you said, as long as you stay healthy and stuff. My last
Mike
question,
Vanderjack started in the arena league.
Mike Vanderjagt, that's right. Yeah, Mike Vanderjagt started in arena football.
Kicked forever.
Yeah. Yeah. My last question, I think Scott will have one before we let you go, Dean. Any guilty pleasures that you can tell us about?
Guilty pleasures. No, I'd say I just spoke about how healthy I try and be and how I try and do the right things all the time. But my guilty pleasure is definitely an English breakfast. Have you ever had an English breakfast?
I have not. No.
Have you seen what it is? Like a fried breakfast, like bacon, sausage, beans, mushrooms, like everything on a plate. Like I could eat that every day, and I almost do. I have bacon, eggs, and fried bread, and every day that's kind of my breakfast. So that's probably my only real kind of guilty pleasure, to be honest with you.
Okay. Scott?
So I was just curious, actually, get more on going back to a little bit of the football stuff. What's the travel situation like from Billings to Dodge City? Have you guys gotten that itinerary yet?
Not quite, but I think it's we'll be driving, so it's a long way.
I made that drive last weekend to Dodge City, and from Kansas City, it's a whole lot of nothing. So
yeah, I think, as far as I'm aware, we're together in a bus or a couple of mini vans, and we're heading down. So not entirely sure, but that's going to be a long trip. So again, that's something I've got to factor in. Ideally, I don't want to be sat on a bus for that long. My legs stiffening up. So I'll try and prepare for that too. So I'm ready to bomb some deuces at the weekend.
Yeah, not a lot of major airports between those two cities, so you kind of have to take what you get in that one.
Ask Dean, what's worse, that the upcoming trip or having to travel from Edmonton to Hamilton?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll tell you afterwards if you want. I'll compare it. But yeah, I never minded our long trips in the CFL, because we had time. We got there the day before and we had time to relax. And it was always the journeys back that were worse, because you just played a game for 4 hours, you're drained, and then you got to jump on an aeroplane for 4, 5, 6 hours, and you get back at 4 in the morning, and so that was always the worst. I wish we'd stayed after CFL games because we head back straight away. You know.
Especially the time change too, because
Mhm.
Yeah.
Edmonton and Billings, they're on Mountain Time Zone, and heading out east, you're gaining 2 hours, but it's more than just that. It's travel time. It's
Mhm.
we all know how we feel when we travel. We're
Yeah.
tired, and you being as an athlete, I'm sure it's a lot tougher on you.
Yeah. You have to prepare for it, and I think I've learned that over the years how to manage my body. You know, I take electrolytes. That's the important bit. You dehydrate, especially when you fly. You dehydrate more. But also, if you're going to be sat on a on a bus for 16 hours, you're probably less likely to drink as much as you should, water wise. So you're going to be dehydrated again, and it's about managing that, making sure you are, because you can't manage it all. You know, the fact is, when you travel away, you're going to be somewhat affected. So it's
Mm,
how can you still perform enough, you know, to not really make it a bad day. You know,
right.
sometimes because you are tired, but part of being a professional athlete, I'm not complaining because I'm grateful to be able to do it. So
Well, I I think I can speak for Scott, and especially, the
Mhm.
fans in buildings, stuff like that. We are glad to see you in the AF1. You're bringing your experience and your pedigree to the game itself, and it's just as we said earlier before, Dean. It's just making the game better, knowing that you're bringing your experience and you're learning on the fly on how to make the game as fun as possible for you as a player, and obviously, you know, trying to trying to frustrate your opponent as much as possible. But we really appreciate you, Dean, for joining us here, and all the best this week. Get that first win, and I can honestly tell you that you have people not only in the U.S., Billings, and in Canada. We're watching what you do, and we're enjoying everything that we see from you.
I appreciate it. It means a lot to have that support. And like, you know, I always say I chat with my parents a lot because obviously I'm away from them. But I say to have that support I have here from certain people, like those are the things that kind of is bigger than football. You know, like when I'm done playing, I'm going to have those friends and I'm going to have those contacts, and I meant something to someone. You know, whether it was a
Mhm.
moment, whether it was a game, whether it was an interaction with a fan, like you meant something, and that's bigger than football. So I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it.
All right, make sure you take a look at that slide tackle with the Billings game. You can
Hey,
tell me if it's legal.
okay, we will, and we'll be waiting. We'll be waiting for the Queen's wave.
There we
It's
go.
coming. It's only a matter of time. Only a matter of time.
Exactly. Thank
So
you very much, Dean.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
take care.
Bye.
All right, that's a good time.
Yeah, yeah. I had I seen Dean do an Edmonton Elks podcast when he was with the team. And I know they loved him in Edmonton. And as I
Mhm.
said during the interview, I had a sneaking suspicion that he'll be loved and very well liked in Billings. And as you and I were talking about, kicking has gotten better in this league.
Oh man, yeah.
Adding him, adding Salina, getting a new kicker, it's just improved the game drastically just over a single week's
Mhm.
period.
And I was because like I just mentioned, I was out in Dodge City this last weekend, and watching them play Nashville, and kicking game was incredible, absolutely
Yeah,
incredible. Bar balls, deuces, both sides of the
yeah.
net. I mean, it was. This is what we've been waiting for all year, and it finally happened. So
Oh,
yeah, the kicking
exactly.
game just massive, massive improvement this week. I mean, I can't be happier on that aspect of the game right now.
Yeah. Um, do you want to go over quick news from the league? 'Cause we did have one bit of news that came about. By the way, to answer Brian Mathern's question from
Yes.
a little while back, no. As Dean was saying, there are not K balls this year in the AF1. They're looking. I would imagine just from what Dean is saying, um, y- they can try to petition the league in order to get more K balls for them, because as we saw last year, Scott, when it was the change from those very bad composite balls in
Those
in
things
the
are
AFL to switching to the one above it.
Mhm.
It's slightly different to the one above it because they use the Wilson balls at the normal Wilson balls after that. Kicking improved drastically.
Mhm.
Um, but it's very interesting to get a uh, uh, kicker's perspective on what it was when it came to the balls. So, um, do you want to talk about that news real quick before we talk about the games? 'Cause it kind of leads into
Yeah,
oh,
definitely. I mean, unfortunately, there's not a ton to say yet at this point, but
no, but I will admit it. The plus is that we have seen that I guess what whether it be fans, media, or the league brass deems as a potential issue or something, a rule arises that may need answers to, they're very good when it comes to releasing stuff on social media and on their website. And we did get something today because, as we've seen, there were some issues by the looks of it in Corpus Christi, rumors abound and whatnot, um, and players not playing, et cetera. And
and lots of
at
players
least the league,
released this week.
yeah, some big names too, some
Mhm.
big names too. You know what? Darius Prince was their big signing for the year in Corpus Christi, along
Mhm.
with Dwayne Hollis also.
Yep.
Um, so the league said that they are looking into it, and I don't know where it's going to lead. I do not know if there are monetary issues in Corpus Christi, will that equate to um, old school days where the league stepped in for a team, or if they will just go dormant, like sort of like what happened in the NAL this past week with one of their teams. Um, Being that there is no escrow, so to speak, it's my understanding, like there was in the past where teams would put money into an account, and if something happens, whatever it may be, they would be able to take from that. I don't. If that's not the case, um, it's only speculation on my part, but I think until the writing's on the wall, to me, it is just that. It's just speculation. It's very possible that the league may lose a team, but it's until we actually hear it from the league itself, Scott. That's exactly what it is. It's just speculation. But the league did acknowledge that there is smoke.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, you can't deny that there's not something going on. What exactly it is, it's we're all hearing rumors, we're all seeing social media posts. We genuinely don't know exactly what is going on.
Sure.
We know as
Yeah.
much as everybody else on Facebook right now.
Well,
um,
hence the plus for the league's release.
yeah, I
I don't think
mean,
we didn't know if we were going to get one and what it was going to say, but it's better than not saying anything.
and it's not, hey, we solved the world's problems, but it's just acknowledgement. It's just that layer of transparency that we hadn't seen in the past. We keep bringing
Mhm.
that up, but it's happening. When issues come up, they're saying, hey, there's issues, with officiating. We're getting some of that fixed. There's issues, Orlando and Titus came on and covered all that on this show. And actually it kind of got me thinking that, Orlando was supposed to be fined $100,000 for every game missed. That's where that 1.2 million came from that he was
Mhm.
speaking of.
Yeah.
If Corpus disappears, are we looking at the same $100,000 a game from Corpus?
I don't know if it's different. If I were to give my opinion on this one, it is um, maybe how the contract was written because Orlando did not. They were going to play that week 0, and then pulled out completely,
Yeah.
as it is our understanding. And maybe it was something that was built into the team the franchise contract. Um,
I'll have to go back and watch what
I
he said,
don't.
because I thought he said that it was for every team. If any team misses a game, it's 100,000.
It's something that we may need to revisit. I guess it
Mhm.
may be depending on the situation. If it comes to a team that say goes bankrupt, you
Mhm.
know, uh, do the same rules apply? I don't know. We don't have a copy of the franchise contract. Obviously, it's not on our pay grade. So, um, I don't know. It's a good question, and I would imagine that we could ask the question. If we get an answer, either Scott and I will let you know. So, but
Mhm.
it's how to bridge the question itself, and if we actually do get an answer. So,
So, Charles brings up he likes the handling this better than the Orlando release, and the Orlando release was very emotional. You know,
yeah,
that's ultimately what that came down to. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely, I'd say, more professional. Um, but I don't. But again, I don't think it was nearly as personal as what happened with Orlando. Because like Titus said on the show, he's like, that was somebody I considered a friend. That's somebody that I
mhm.
didn't have any doubts in, and then at the last minute, the rug gets pulled out from under. So that was it was a personal thing at that point. But from a visibility standpoint, optics, this definitely looks better so far.
Yeah. And it's not that we're saying there's nothing wrong. We've seen the
Mhm.
stuff that everybody has. So it's not like we have our heads in the sand. We do see these things. Um,
Well, we've been saying all
and again,
season that anytime, hey, this is going to happen. This is happening in Corpus. This is happening in Corpus. We're
yeah,
like, until Darius Prince posts about it, let's not worry about it. You know,
and
Darius,
that's yeah, exactly.
you know,
Or
just
the league, as I
or the
said, and
league.
which gets to what happened this week. Um, I think that's great segue into this week's game since we might as well go. We talked about it with Dean a little bit. We talked about it, but we'll talk about the game in Corpus Christi. Yes, we do know that the league the team itself was promoting all these records that were broken, etc. You know, basically how these records were broken in either pro football or AF1 records or whatnot. And because I kind of had this conversation with some people, and I was curious to know your thoughts on this. And we were talking about Brian Mitchell before, and all the amount the six drop kick extra points that Nell had in Albany had for Albany this week. Um, yeah, what's your thought on this to you? And I this was my thought on this after doing some research and seeing how many that Brian Mitchell had. He had four in his career in one game. Now it's six. To me, that is an arena football record broken, not Arena Football League, as an arena football record broken. Do you agree with my wording on that?
I do. Where it gets a little hairy is where do you include the NAL in those records? They did play a season with the Nets and arena rules. Do we
Okay.
count?
Well,
Do we count those?
even at one and done, when
Mhm.
I still never considered, and this is me personally, I never considered the NAL arena football, whether they had the nets or not.
Mhm.
That was me. Um, but you can still continue that one, but I don't think that there wasn't anything along the lines of what was set in arena football history.
Right. I mean, it's definitely not in the the dropkick department. Definitely not. But
Right. And the example that I used, Scott, was that you do have leagues uh, crossing the stream, so to speak, when it comes to certain records. Out and the example I gave was the following: um, Anthony Calvillo of the Canadian of the Montreal Alouettes of the CFL broke the pro football record for most passing yards in a career.
Mhm.
Not NFL. Not you know what it wasn't NFL. It wasn't CFL. Yes, he broke both, but it was a pro football record. And I think it goes to the fact that, yes, the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton it is NFL centric. We get that. But they have had other displays of other types of pro football. Arena Football League included, CFL included. I think the USFL was in there a little bit, if I
Yep.
remember correctly, at
And
one
man, there's
point.
still all the pre NFL stuff is still
Yeah.
up in there too.
So that's really was my point. My thought was, arena football arena football, pro football. I get that, but that's just how I was thinking about it. And I think, do I think some of them records were a little bit of a stretch? Sure.
Well, and the first thing that comes to mind is Ichiro Suzuki. I
Mhm.
want to say he had some career record, and I'm just pulling this out of my backside. I just vaguely remember him having a career record that combined his major league record and his Japan records.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was total home runs or something along those lines. He set some sort of professional baseball record with that.
See,
Um,
there's the term though, professional
baseball.
baseball record. And yes, Garcia did have one most passing touchdowns by a quarterback in their career. It was over
Period.
1,000. Over 1,000.
That'll be tough to ever get broken.
Yeah.
Just absolutely ever get broken. Like that's going to be. Yeah, that's a good
So-
Trivial Pursuit question that no one will
Oh,
get
yeah.
but us.
Or yeah, exactly. Or even Jeopardy. Nobody will get that.
Mhm.
But people have enough problems getting ones about arena football or any or the CFL as an example.
Without going
Um,
on too much of a tangent, I've been thinking if I ever get on the game show The Floor, I don't know if you've seen that out in
Oh yeah,
Canada.
yeah. Yeah.
Arena football teams. Challenge me. Come on, let's go.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
But
Brian, even if that's the case, with 2024 AFL needs to be included. I understand, and you and I were going back and forth on this. They didn't. It would add the New Orleans, the Louisiana kicker to the list.
Mhm.
That's all that it would do. He didn't set any records.
Mhm.
But yes, it would add him to, and I'll be honest with that. Despite there being no basically lost stats, I know
Yeah.
you were there. I
Say
know
good
it
luck
was scored
finding the records.
Yeah, I know it was scored incorrectly, but I would have no problem doing that, adding
Mhm.
him to that list, because it's still rarefied air. It's less than 20 guys who have done it.
It's regardless, it's impressive.
Yeah.
I-
But the score itself, you used the word impressive. I don't. It was like a bunch of guys. That most of them weren't playing. I think we've heard rumors of anywhere between only 6 and maybe maximum of 10 or 12 regular players were playing in that game for Corpus Christi. And considering where the scores were at halftime and at the end of the first quarter and et cetera, sure, the 100 points sets the arena football record if you don't include AF2, the most points in a game by a single team, and beat them by 88 points. I mean,
so we've had replacement players before.
asterisk, asterisk is an idea. I've seen that put out there, but the stats are being included. Let's put it that way. The stats are being included in the league, so they are league records. They're league records, and it's something for people everywhere on arena and indoor football to argue about.
I mean, let's face it, Albany's good. They held Billings to 7 points the previous week, beat them 62-24 the week before that. I mean, it's not like, Albany's a nothing burger that just walked in and just destroyed a couple guys in the stands. We've had replacement teams in the past. No one's gotten beat 100-12. So it says just as much about Albany as it does the replacement players. I mean,
Yeah, and considering that their backup quarterback had 7 touchdowns, because Sam Castanova did not play the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. Probably unless you're a Corpus fan, it was a fun game, but it did get tedious after a little while. But then it's the train wreck. You got to see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. And Henry Nell, 26 points in that game alone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Did that include his receiving 2-point conversion?
That's a good question.
I don't know. I'll have to ask. We'll have to ask the league brass. We'll have to ask
Figure
Adam about
all
that
the
one.
deuces plus all the drop kicks, and then catching
and consistently.
Yeah.
That's what blew my mind. What's funny is, our Evergreen Now family member Turf Tapes had an Austin game on just this past week, And we had joked about, if everybody remembers, the field in Austin was not 50 yards long. There's no way. It
No.
was like, I think every 10 equaled 8, if I remember correctly. People in the chat can correct me, but I know they weren't. I remember somebody from Arena Fan, one of my former colleagues, actually measuring it, Scott.
Mhm.
It wasn't 10. It
No,
wasn't 10
it wasn't
yards.
even close.
So you talk about that, and yet Nell was consistently hitting deuce after deuce after deuce after deuce. I was like, is that field regulation?
I
It
mean,
didn't make any sense.
at that point, though, I mean, wouldn't make a difference if it was short. You still got to bounce it off the ground, kick it, and keep it straight. Like,
I know.
I couldn't do that if my life depended on it.
Well, and I think it's funny you brought it up with Dean, and Dean said he was trying it himself. So you never know.
I'd love to see this league kind of kick into this kind of drop kicking league. I think that'd be an absolute blast to see more and more of that kind of stuff happen.
Brian Mitchell was and people need to go back and watch some Cleveland Thunderbolts games from '94 and when he kicked for the St. Louis Stampede in '95. And most of his records that he set were from '94. This guy was, I mean, drop kick field goals, Scott, drop kick extra points consistently on a consistent basis.
I got the impression though in this game, Coach Ware was mad when he walked on the field.
Oh God, yes. He wasn't going to let up, and I think somebody mentioned it, and I think it was our friends over at the World of Football, where they were still trying to score at the end of the game, Scott. They didn't give a crap.
They're calling timeouts. They're
score was, and my thought was, if it's under a minute, where's the mercy rule? Because I remember seeing the clock stop. Usually, there's an agreement to let the clock run if it's a blowout, and that wasn't the case. Unless they didn't understand it up in the where they were keeping time.
And Corpus wasn't exactly good with their clock all season, so it wouldn't surprise me if they did just mess it up too, But I just got the impression Coach was just mad. I think he was mad that everything was going on the way it was, and I'm going to make an example out of these guys.
We're talking about obviously with the Outlaws Liberty game. It was nice to see the Outlaws make a game of this. They look better. Well, one of the most interesting things about this game, in which I think you had to tell me, is that even with Liberty's new starting quarterback, Rakeem Cato, was there, he didn't finish the game.
Yeah, I don't think he even started the game. Actually, I heard from what I understand, he got hurt in pregame.
So he didn't start at all. I just go back to watch, go Evergreen and watch.
Because even the announcers were like, "Oh, we thought the starter was going to be Cato." like they were surprised.
Yeah.
So apparently he got injured pregame, and because I had no clue. I had to find out after the fact. So then I'll tell you what, Kilgo, he played a good game. Like I was very impressed. A lot better than his last outing for Salina for sure. And again, special teams made all the difference in the world for Salina.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they went from not being able to reach the end zone on kickoffs to kicking deuces. Night and day difference.
The game had it all. The game had it all, which is what you want arena football to have. Having
I'd still like to see a little more scoring, but
kickers. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
But I'll take it.
Let's up it a touch. Let's go, 53-47.
Right. But I'll take it. It was a good game. It was entertaining. I was shocked at the outcome. I honestly thought that was going to be the Outlaws bounce back.
They came close. That's the one thing that they did. They did come close. They had the chance to win it at the buzzer, but a turnover, basically with 2 seconds left on the clock, if I'm not mistaken, sealed it.
Well, and
it makes you wonder, because we've heard rumblings, and it's something that I talked about last week. I was right about, in chat, and I think I said it on the show, that Danny Southwick's needed to start. He did, but we've heard rumblings that potentially Billings is going to make some major changes to the roster. Will that include a new quarterback, a competent quarterback?
Well, as Charles says, is Billings going to pick up some of these Corpus guys that have been released? I mean,
Yep.
just about their entire roster has been released at this point. I don't know who all they have left.
Yeah.
There's some very talented guys on that field. Maybe they stand a chance. There were some guys that played for the Kansas City Goats here that I'm shocked aren't on a AF1 roster. Had Boo Smith and Ryan Martinez. Ryan Martinez with the Rampage beginning of the year last year. Great receivers. Shocked that they're not on an AF1 roster. They're waiting for the TAL season to start at this point. Like these guys need a chance in this league. They're great athletes. You're talking, again, it's a TAL, but Boo was MVP of the league last year. You don't give this guy a shot if you need a receiver.
Do you think it may be because it is a different game? And I'm sure, players, first couple of years of the Arena Football League, the same thing was until they got a name for themselves of these players being really good. Do you think them playing with the TAL game kind of may, at the moment, having teams, put their noses up at them and saying, no, you know what I mean?
It's possible. But when you got a guy that's racking up the catches and yards like these guys did last year, you got to at least give them a look. Give them that chance. Let them compete real quick. See what they've got. Or maybe it's just they're just happy they don't want to leave this area. They're just good where they are. We've seen that happen time after time over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're just happy. Maybe they did get called up, but they passed. That's always possible too. But if you need a receiver, if there's any teams listening right now need a receiver, there's two of them that are scheduled to play at the Goats this year that, in my opinion, would be excellent arena guys. Well, one of them has AFL experience in Ryan Martinez, so they would be excellent on anybody's roster at this point. But again, that's receiver, not quarterback. Quarterback seems to be a little bit of our weak spot as a league.
Yeah, that has improved too. We're getting there with the kickers, but yes, quarterbacks. I said bringing in Cato was a plus because he had experience in arena football and stuff like that. I mean, he's had a whole pedigree. Cato even spent 3 or 4 seasons in the CFL as a starter. So
Billings, 2 of the Billings' next 3 games are against Dodge City in Southwest Kansas. That Cat Storm game was wildly close.
Yes,
if it wasn't for some old time arena football masterpiece coaching by Nashville, the end of the first half, Nashville played the 1 minute clock absolutely perfectly, and you could tell that Coach Arbette has gotten that message through his players. At one point, the running back was on the ground, just short of the goal line, clock's ticking, just seconds left. You see him hit the ground and immediately wrap his hand around the ball, timeout. On the ground, he's calling a timeout the second he hits the ground. There's not a lot of teams in this league that have players coached to that level with the 1 minute clock that are that aware and know how to play
trying to take advantage. Did Nashville kick off? Because were they trying to go for a double score, which is a huge thing, which could be a huge thing in any football, really. But did they receive the second half kickoff?
I honestly don't.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I don't remember at this point.
But either way, you're trying to get. It was trying to go a double. I used to have a term that I called it, but getting 2 scores in back to back. End of the first half.
Last one out, first one in.
Yeah.
And it was just well played. And I think those little touches of, that's where the coaching, that's where Arbette made the difference in that win. That I don't know if it's any other coach. I don't know they walk away with that win that day. Considering
how he's been all year, has been kind of Jekyll and Hyde. Morton played really well for the Storm. I mean,
it was just a good game. It was fun. I had a great time. I'll tell you, I do love that arena too. That's got, for being a small arena out in the middle of nowhere, they've got a great facility. I got to throw this out there. One hiccup I had while being out there, I got the ball when it went into the stands. They swapped it out for an autograph ball.
What's
19 years ago into this game, that kind of blew my mind. I asked the guy, I'm like, are you guys running short? Because I get it. If they're running short on balls, they need the game balls. That stuff happens sometimes. But like, no, that wasn't the case. And I just, whatever. And I'm not going to get in a fight over a ball or anything, but
No,
yeah, that
but
kind of surprised me. You know?
but no need. And you know what? Since you just brought up the subject, and I know we're kind of in between games here, but actually, no. Let's finish the games first. Let's finish the
Mhm.
last game because I think you should people who may have not seen the game ball up front because I know you did. You did actually, luckily, get one. I think if you don't mind, we want to show what is on the ball this year. You know
Yeah.
what I mean when it comes to the different logos and how they put them per city. But let's talk about we're talking about good games, and then
Mhm.
there's Wolfpack Lightning, a tale of 20, 20 minutes, maybe, because Wolfpack was up 41-0. Lightning come back with some very sloppy offensive play, but a great defensive play by Oregon. Sorry, bad offense by the Wolfpack, great offense by the Lightning, taking advantage of everything.
Mhm.
Scored 30 straight points. So this was basically a game of runs.
Mhm.
41 for Washington, for 30 for the Lightning. That was the
And
final
that, and
score.
that's how it's been in the previous games too, or game of runs.
Yeah, less that one game coming back at the last moment.
Hmm.
So
You know what though? Score wise, you look at this sheet right here. That game kept up with all the other games for the week, other than obviously Albany being the outlier. 40s to 30s. I mean, it on paper, it was solid. On the field, these are two teams that got a lot to clean up.
so
It's and it was a good matchup because it's two teams that have a lot to clean up. And then from that aspect, you know,
let's just hope it gets better because there are teams in the AF1, and then there are the teams in the
mhm.
AF1. Now, obviously, there is between the current 8 teams that are there. There is a hierarchy, and unfortunately, the teams out west really aren't that strong. Um, but we'll see if any of them get if they get any better. If Albany can do it, so can everybody else. So, uh, yeah, Firebirds undefeated. Whether
It's going
people
to take
want
a
to
lot
put
to
it as
stop them.
people want to put it an asterisk next to the one of the games, whatever you want to do, then whatever, do it. Uh, both Cats and Tritons are at 3-2. Storms at 4-3. Outlaws at 2-3, and to me, I think that's kind of misleading because I think they're going to rebound. I think they will make the playoffs. But
But like I said,
it's going to
two
be
of their
interesting.
next three are against the Storm. With
Exactly.
them just losing to the Liberty, that Storm game gets real interesting. Both those Storm games get real interesting.
Yeah,
So
I agree. And
like you can't cut out Billings ever,
no,
but
no.
it could
And
get really
again,
fun.
playoffs is top 2 get a bye, and the other 4 play a quarterfinal.
And then whether
So
it's in the future, the Tritons being whatever it is, we'll find out soon, hopefully.
whatever it is, yeah, exactly.
So it's either one out or two out, essentially, is
Mhm,
what we're looking at this
mhm,
point. So it's the
exactly.
race. It couldn't be in the race to last.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll see again. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But the 2 other teams, teams out west, I think need to get better. Outlaws, I think, will turn it around. Storm's looking good. Again, let's see what happens with the Cats next, because it's very possible that the Cats may be on the rise now. They seem to have everything that they need, including a quarterback. So
And they're still not perfect. I mean,
no,
there's still some flaws in their games, but every week they've gotten better. And that's the big thing with the Cats is every single week I'm seeing major improvements.
yeah,
And they're currently ranked second record wise. Honestly, I'd have a hard time arguing that in a power ranking. Really, at this point, I would say that what you see here in the record is pretty accurate for a power rating.
I
Maybe
don't
give
think so.
Liberty.
I might put I might put the Storm up a little bit higher, at least above the Tritons.
Well, the Tritons, especially now that they don't have a roster. Yeah, let's exclude the
Yeah,
Tritons out of this talk for now. You
yeah,
know? But
exactly.
of course, maybe flip the Liberty and Outlaws as well at this point. But I think it's pretty
Yeah,
close.
we'll see what happens. Yeah. Before we go to this week's games, you want to
Mhm.
grab your game ball and give everybody a sneak peek?
Yeah, give me a second here. I'm gonna kick off camera here.
So yeah, it's you know, it's you want to be able to, as everybody knows, you can't get the game balls currently over on the is it Big Play or whatever the name of the ball company is. You can't get it on their website.
Yeah, team issue.
Team issue. Well,
Yeah.
no, it's not that. It's not team issue. That's the secondary name for the ball for the Big Game USA. You can't get it on the website. They're not sell. They aren't being sold. Um, I can say before Scott shows it that I received some news before we went onto the show tonight that very shortly, I'm checking right now.
That's I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah, very shortly, I have been my friend, you want to do it? You want to show it? They're there.
I can pull it up.
As of right now, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
if you go to the AF1 fan shop over at Royal Retros or follow the link from the AF1.com, replica jerseys are again officially available for sale. So before you bring that up, show us the game ball.
Oh,
Show us the
game
game ball.
ball. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
let me swap us around here. Yeah. There we go. So team issue. A really neat touch with the stitching just on the top. That's something
Yeah.
that I don't know. I've just never quite seen that before, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble, just in case. But yeah, got the team sponsors on the bottom.
That's cool. That's cool.
And then Transfinder, of course.
There we go. That's what I was curious to say. Okay.
So yeah, we're talking about the Pokemon balls. This is them.
Mm-hmm.
Got to catch them all.
It's so yeah. These are gonna be harder to get for considering a lot of teams aren't selling them.
Right.
I'm under the impression that they have gone through more than one order of game balls, Scott.
With as
That's my
with as bad
understanding.
as the kicking is, it doesn't surprise me. There's a lot more going into the stands than that we're used to.
Yeah. But again, if they have produced a second batch, that's good too. It just means that they are consistently using these things. But yeah, let's get a K. If you're on the show earlier, let's get a K ball for these kickers.
Yeah.
Set aside a couple.
You know what? And make it optional, I guess. If you got a guy that let's say like Washington putting their fullback in there, this guy's not really a kicker. He's not going to get the full use out of it.
Yeah.
Fine, don't have one for them. You don't.
Yeah.
But if you got guys that are legitimate, and I hate to say legitimate, but if you got guys that kicking is what they do, and they're very particular, then yeah. And
I think we're up to 5. I think we've
Yep.
talked about this off air. I think we're up to 5 teams now that I can say legitimately have a kicker that should be able to reach the net and use the nets accordingly.
Right. And Charles is asking, yep, they're Jeff and Jerry are both on here. Which I don't know, have there been a lot of dual signature balls in the past?
Jaws and Randall Bowe.
Yep.
2019.
I see that one up there. That's the only one I can think of.
That's the only time in
Yeah.
arena football history that I know of.
So the other team issue ball also had 2.
Yes, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Jaws was listed as CEO, I think.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I excited to get that. Excited to add it to my collection. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to start tearing this down soon. I'm moving in a few weeks, so this is gonna be a little thinned out. But at least for a little while till I get it into my new setup. But for now, I'm gonna leave it up as long as I can.
To that, man. That should be fun. That should be fun. Scott's going to be improving his man cave.
Oh yeah. So hopefully a little more climate control this big room that I'm in.
Nice.
But
nice.
All right.
So as we mentioned before, we received word that the replica jerseys are now available over at RoyalRetros.com. And I ordered the link again, as I said, at theaf1.com. And let's take a peek, because I'm curious to know what they are. Because when we saw them before they were literally up and then down,
mm-hmm.
we all had a look at them in our group chat. Have they have more been added? Outlaws have both.
You're gonna see this as I see it. So let's see.
Oregon. Oh, mind Oregon. Oregon doesn't have their blacks. This was the first week we got to see Oregon's black uniforms. By the way.
So yeah, we got, was it 4 different Albany throwbacks here? These have been up here for a while.
Right. Choose from the filter. Choose jerseys if you haven't already.
Yeah, I've already got
Yeah,
that set.
You have.
So yeah, we got the
Yep.
blue and the white retro cats, the Outlaws, white and black. Still
Yeah,
waiting
they
to see
don't have.
what their third's gonna look like.
Yeah, they're gunmetal gray. Yeah.
Mhm. Wolfpack's just the one.
Mm-hmm.
Firebirds have 3 listed.
Yep. One is their away.
Yep. Orange, black, and white. Little Tennessee looking Oregon jerseys here. But that really does look like Tennessee, the white one.
Don't
But yeah.
mind
What else we got? Corpus, you may want to get those while you can.
them. I like those better. I like the powder blue ones better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very Toronto Argonauts-esque, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're just kind of cool, kind of clean looking.
Yep.
Liberty, white and blue.
Yeah, they don't have their all reds. They don't have their all reds available.
I do like the all reds.
Yeah.
The Storm.
This, dude, something about the electric green.
It just pops.
I
It really
love
does look
that.
good. That really, really does look good. And then Nashville, just the black for the Nashville Cats. So they don't have their blue
Their
ones up
whites
here.
the last week were nice. The white uniforms I really liked.
Very clean. Very, very clean
I'm
look.
curious to think, if you were to guess, fathom a guess here, Scott, if this Cats do have a third jersey also, like most teams do,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think the Cats would go with? You think they would go with their retro powder blue? Because I'm trying to think. 'cause
I
that's what
think
the
they
Cats
would.
had.
I want to see them in yellow. I know I know they're probably not going to do it, but I want to see them in like Big Bird yellow. I just think that would be kind of fun. You know?
Well, considering to me how well the outline is on those numbers, what would you think of powder blue, but with yellow sleeves?
Similar to the
Kinda,
Corpus.
or what Southwest Kansas has done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. That wouldn't be bad. I think my whole thing is, if you got an alt jersey, go big with it. It's already an alt jersey.
The Birds did a good job. Firebirds did a good job in bringing back a slight homage to their late 90s teams and their championship team.
And I think black's overused, but I do say those black Firebirds ones they're sharp.
Again, they need to pair them. I think they need to pair them with, pair the orange jerseys with their black pants. I want to see what it looks like. Pair the black jerseys with their white pants, because that was somewhat basically what they wore in the 90s also.
Right. But yeah, so, no, I mean, I got a bit. The jerseys, they're just sharp. They look good. And I will say,
I can say also that I've been told to, besides what has been released tonight, is that there is going to be something else that will be available, I think, within the next week. Not much information was given to me. But I do know it's jersey related, but it should be available, I think, within the next week or two, from what I was told. Okay. That will also be on the team shop, on the league shop.
So we'll have to pull it up when it comes up.
Yep. So glad to have him back.
So yeah, no, they've done really great work up at Raw Retro. So it's definitely a good partner for the league for sure.
Oh, I agree, 100%. Dustin's done a good job across the board with all the stuff that he has there.
Well, and just to be able to get all those actual retro jerseys, all those old teams. They used to have more, if I remember correctly, more of the old AFL.
Yeah, but I don't know if that falls under, the previous or the current owners of the trademarks.
And then, do they own those trademarks at this point, other than the league itself? So these franchises are long dead. And they still have an AF2 section with T-shirts up there. I don't know what the AFL section still looks like, but I still got Voodoo jerseys. Yeah, I still got a couple old AFL jerseys. So
do
the
they?
AFL
Okay.
still has their own section on that side as well. So it's like
Okay.
San Jose, Colorado, New Orleans,
Okay, cool.
Chicago, and the Bruisers. So
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Nice.
So there's some good stuff on there. If y'all haven't been to that website, definitely check it out. There's some really, really cool stuff out there.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Scott, I know we're on, you stream to multiple platforms, the YouTube and Facebook, and I know you do some others too, but for those who may have missed the news last week, and I kind of hinted at it earlier today, um, we are now, the show is now a part of one of the leagues, a league streaming platform, aren't we?
We are. We got fortunate enough to get ourselves on, and not live, unfortunately. We'll work on that in the future. But right now, pre-recorded, we post all these videos up on Evergreen now in the AF1 Fan Hub, Arena Football Fan Hub. So got some good company there too. There's some really great fan programs out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Firebirds Weekly, Turf Tapes, all the entire family of the Nest shows. I'll call them. But yeah, it's
and more coming. They're going to keep adding.
Yeah, and it was something. Again, it was something that Scott worked on for a while. I can say, if you are, as long as you have I guess we can say somewhat of a library that you can show, because there is a vetting process, which I completely understand.
It's not YouTube. You can't just throw stuff up.
It's not YouTube, but and there is the possibility. It's into the contract that depending on what happens down the line, there is a possibility of becoming a partner, a paid partner of somewhat. But that's my understanding of what you told me. That's farther down the line on how they do, but on what they do. But still,
it's a possibility.
It's something that's never existed before for arena football, having a hub itself other than YouTube. But I mean, something where one destination, you have all these different types of shows, league-centric, team-centric, all available in one location, along with all the games that have been shown on Evergreen now, and including the Vice games.
Yeah, they get Vice. Was it 72 hours? Is that what it is after the Vice games?
I think it's 72 hours. Yeah,
so,
their window.
So yeah, I mean, it's an honor for us to just be alongside all the league's broadcasts. Like that's awesome. Just a few years ago, I feel like I say this all the time. A few years ago, this stuff's impossible. There's no way that we're able to do something like that, let alone do live stuff like this and bring people in. And it's a perfect time to be a fan and get involved in this kind of stuff, because that's just the world we live in now. It's cool level of access for sure.
Exactly. And just to let people know, no, they're not currently available yet, because we usually will talk about the ratings that are posted for Vice and the shows wherever it may be ranked. Those aren't currently available yet, so that's why we haven't mentioned them, because they aren't available yet. So
we gotta pop in. We gotta say hi to Lou.
Lou!
We've mentioned him a couple times on the show. Lou, good to have you with us.
Yeah, anybody does, we got to give him a plug. Anybody who doesn't know, Lou is a long-time arena indoor football fanatic. I've just heard stories about his collection, and I am in awe.
Hit up that QR code up there.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Good. I think Lou's collection gives Jim Foster's Hall of Fame collection a run for sure.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
But he has some incredible crush items.
Yeah, Lou and his collection and his team over at Pinforce have started to create a 1987 set of pins from the original 4 of the Arena Football League, whether it be whether it be Denver Dynamite, Chicago Bruisers, or Pittsburgh Gladiators, or the Washington Commandos, or the league logo, the original league logo. Those pins will be available there. If you hit there, 2 of them are available now. 2 sets are available now. but there are more to come.
Yeah, and just
two more teams to
incredible
be
quality.
released for his series one. Oh yeah, you have one. Series
Yep.
one of his 1987 arena football pins in there.
So yeah,
They're
hit
just-
up that QR code up there. Take a look at them. It's good stuff. Like I can't wait to actually get these up on a board. If I wasn't moving, they'd already be up on a board. So
And by the way, for those who don't know, Pinforce is a sister company of Fan Sets. It's another one that Lou is involved in, very much so. Check them out over there too, because you're doing well, Scott, when you have the official rights to do all Star Trek badges.
yeah, all the badges, all the DC characters.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So, yeah,
Like
check all the sites out for Lou's sites, man. So
Chicago Pins, May 8th.
there you go.
So there you go. 3/4 of the way done.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, do you want to get on next?
You know what? I tell you, Lou, we'll need to have you on a show. We need you to we got to get you on there. We'll set something up.
Definitely.
Yep.
All right. Next week's games.
Week 9. Week 9. Week 9.
Week 8.
Week 8. Week 8.
9 if you count 0.
Yeah, okay. Is the Lightning Wolfpack is the Vice game this week, right?
Yeah, I believe so. 5 p.m. Sunday. That should be.
Yeah. I think what's funnier. I don't know what's funnier. I remember, I get it when it comes to shifting times and dates and stuff like that. Could be a pain in the butt, Scott, and we've all gone through it when it comes to our teams, whether it be the playoffs or 10-1 takes over a certain time and pushes your team to another slot in the arena.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Albany,
including the Arena Bowl.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Oh God, New Orleans kicking off at 9:00 at night. Central. Was it Central? Yeah, it's 9:00 Central.
Yeah, 9:00 Central.
But I think, to be honest, Albany's taking this. They're using it to their advantage. I understand some Firebirds fans are not happy, but Liberty at the Firebirds on May the 4th. Come on. Take advantage of Star Wars Day as best as possible. I hope they do something for the Vice broadcast too, man. I hope they do something for the Vice broadcast in Washington.
What do you do? What do you do?
I don't know. We don't even know who the broadcast partners are yet. The broadcast teams, because they haven't been announced yet by Vice. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, man. But either way, Outlaws Storm to start off the weekend.
Yeah,
we were talking about it before. Is that these two teams? This is an Outlaw team that is on a 3-game losing streak, and this is a Storm team that has been very up and down. This game right here, these next twos you were pointing out, are the next 2 or 3? Either way, the next 2
of 3. 2 of 3, yeah.
It easily changed the landscape of the playoffs and where they're going to be ranked. So it's a very important game, and I think if the rumors were true that we mentioned earlier that there may be some major changes in Billings, the question is who will start for the Billings Outlaws? Is it going to be Danny Southwick? Nothing's come across the wire yet, so that we can say. I think the transactions have already been put out for the day by the league. So we'll see. So
if nothing changes, let's just say it's the same rosters that were here last week. This game's closer than I would have thought originally.
Is 2 competent kickers. I think I still would give a slight edge to Billings in their kicking game. Not because we had Dean on, but I know what Dean can do. Is this going to be a slobber knocker of a game, or is this going to be a low scoring affair in the 30s?
I see it being very similar to this week with Nashville and the Storm. I see it being very, very where it may come to that one or two calls that are more traditional arena football
Yeah.
that makes the difference in terms of how the game ends. I mean, because that's ultimately why Nashville won. Just other plays that if you're playing more of an outdoor or indoor style, you're just not gonna hit quite right. That's the only reason. That's the only reason that the Storm lost this week. They easily could have beaten Nashville if they arenaed it up a little bit more. They're getting better. They are getting better.
Like Pocho in Salina, he's learning. He's finally learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like I said, right now, you got to give it to the Outlaws. They've got that arena experience.
Do we have the lines yet? Out of curiosity,
that is a good question. I can look that up real quick.
Because honestly, right now, in my opinion, knowing what these two teams have done over the past couple of weeks, I would I would put it as a pick'em game.
Yeah,
Outlaws and Storm.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. Signed in. We'll let you know how that goes.
And I think it's Salina's first trip back to Albany since the playoffs last year.
Yeah, because that was Dodge. It was the Storm that were out there earlier this year, right?
The Storm. I think I did that earlier in the season too. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. All right. AF1. All right. Yeah. Let's see. March 8th. No. I don't have March up here. Upcoming. There we go.
Brian, not sure about Andre Sale with Billings. I'd have to check the roster.
I am not seeing anything up yet for this.
Interesting.
So, yep, doesn't look like there's lines up. And then, maybe they are delaying it until they find out what's going on with Corpus. Maybe there's something with
this week, but Corpus isn't playing.
With the players everywhere, rosters are up in the air.
Very good point. Very good point.
So they may be just kind of holding stuff off till they have just a better idea. But yeah, I'm not seeing anything yet for next week on here.
And Brian, no, it doesn't look like he's on the team. At least according to the current roster on the Billings website.
So yeah, Liberty at Albany. I mean, Albany's a juggernaut right now. I mean,
yeah,
Liberty's getting better. Surprisingly, gotten a lot better. But
who's going to start?
I would assume Cato if he's healthy, but I don't know the extent of his injury. So that's.
With all honesty, I would probably put this game, despite and not really counting what happened last week, because that this is the better Salina team. I would probably put this. I probably put the Firebirds as a 9-point favorite on this one. Some people may think that's low based on what happened last week, but I think it's fair considering that they're at home.
I don't know that Liberty can keep up. It's, I mean, honestly, that's why I'd say 9's probably a little low. Now, is it going to be 80? No, it's not going to be anything close to last week. I think Liberty's actually be fairly competitive, but like I said, right now, Albany's just a
curious to see what Henry Nail. Give me curious to see what Henry Nail does. But in his second week as a drop kick god. So
as long as he keeps making them, there's no reason to stop him. Even if he makes 50% of them, you're no worse off.
Yeah.
So you make 1 over 50%, you're coming out ahead.
Yep. I'm curious to see. If he doesn't continuously hit the deuce, then I think it will go to my, to my thought that the field in Corpus Christi is not a regulation 80, 50 yards.
Get a little extra bounce off the turf or something, maybe.
Something. Well, I mean, yeah, something. But, more of the deuces than anything else. But
well, like Brian said, Washington, Oregon's getting old. But you know what? It's not.
Slight modifications were made. I think it's one of the few games that really didn't change, but they're near each other, and it's an easy. It just needs to be a good game.
You know what? They're always entertaining when they play each other. May not be a good quality game, but it's entertaining. Every time they've played, it's been a fun ending. At least it's come down to the end. It's been a good time. A little sloppy, but it's been a good time. And if you can entertain the folks on Vice, that's all that really matters when it comes down to it.
Of course, and it's funny, we're talking about just real quickly, Vice seems to be coming, I can't call them a juggernaut, but they just signed, the Big 3
Oh, wow. I hadn't seen
Big 3
that.
league. Yeah, they're gonna be having, 14 games.
They're going to be just the alt sports
Or
network at some point, the way they're going now.
yeah, yeah. So,
But
um, I don't know, you know what? I'm gonna Wolfpack by 1.
yeah, yeah, I can't. I mean, that's another one that's ultimately, I think, a pick 'em.
Mhm.
Could be a 7-point gap because it's going to be whoever touches the ball last, or one of those kind of things. But
Yeah, let's not make it sloppy. You can't start off 41-0. We've had too many of those, more or less than not, of those games on Vice this year.
mhm.
Let's get, hopefully it'll be a good game.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it'll be close. I mean, they that's how it's been all season. Like I say, you got that. Almost had a gift to the Lightning from the Wolfpack not playing the 1-minute clock right. Lightning get the ball
Mhm.
back at the last minute and just don't capitalize on it. So I mean, hey, 1-possession game, keep it entertaining. That's all I really want to see out of that one.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but yeah, again, so I mean, these are pretty run of the mill games this week. I think. I think the big highlight though is going to be that Outlaw Storm. To see which Billings team comes out, which Storm team comes out.
Yeah, and let's hope, obviously, let's get some other good games too. But remember, those first 2 games of the week and will be on Vice. Excuse me, will be on Evergreen now, with the Lightning Wolfpack game on Vice
Nice.
Sports.
So, you mentioned the scoring gaps. And actually, one of the things I wanted to kind of show
Yeah.
everybody, we just started. I just set this up today. It's still a little rough. We're working on some of the formatting, but it's getting there. We set up a Scoregami page on the fan zone, which, let's see if I can get my stuff to work
Right.
properly here. Because I lost my screen. There we go. All right. Yeah, I know y'all can't see this. Actually, I'll expand it to get a little bit better.
I was about to say,
Yeah, all the games, and it's going to be updated every week. How often these combinations occur from a 22 to 20, losing score on the left side, winning score on the top. It'll just show you the frequency. Along the bottom, shows you what scores win the most often. We've had 3 games here at 40 and 41 points each that have won the games this year. So it seems like that's kind of the sweet spot. Pretty much anything over
that's
40.
cool. That's cool.
You go to the far end. There you go, 100 to 12. Yeah. So anything that pops up, if you go down to the very bottom here, 2025, it lists all the games. Hopefully you're still seeing all that. Yeah. Lists all the games, the scores, the total points scored is also listed on here. So that 100 to 12 is not the highest scoring game we've had this year. We've had 114 scored once. So
It's true.
So just keeping some just kind of fun little stats. Again, the QR code up there will take you to that page.
By the way, it's funny that both times in arena football history that the teams have gotten scored either 99 or 100 points, neither of those 2 games were the highest scoring games in those respective leagues.
Nice. That's wild. That is wild. But usually I think that's the case. You can't score that many points and have the other team also scoring points.
Mhm.
It takes having the ball in your hand, not theirs, to score that much.
Yep.
Also, the button on the bottom, if you want to see it, it's easier to read on Google Sheets. Click that button. It'll take you to the Google Sheets page, and you can view all this yourself in a little bit easier to read format for now, until I can get this formatted a little bit better. There's a lot takes up a lot of space, so trying to get that in one deals. NFL doesn't have to go to 100, so. But yeah, hit up the QR code. They'll take you straight there. Go to the website, AF1 Fan Zone, and it'll be up on the menu bar up at the top.
Cool.
So, just something fun, something else to throw out there. Yeah, Arena Fan can't take all the stats. So,
Origami would be interesting.
Yeah.
I've seen. I think that we've seen it done for NFL. I don't know if they've done it for CFL. I think they've done it for college. So
Not a lot of data points to work with yet, but that'll grow over time.
exactly.
So, and again, I'm going to just have each tab going across 25, 26, 27. All those years will just be, historical. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully keeping that same deal here. We got home score, away score, winning, total points, and your frequency for that year.
Stat Nerd's dream.
Yeah.
Stat Nerd's wet dream.
Pretty much. So.
All right. Just for those, Scott, who are watching us maybe for the very first time on Evergreen now, where can they find the site and yourself on socials?
So, like I said, af1fanzone.com. You can get to the page, all of our videos that we've had. There's photo albums from previous arena bowls. There's old articles, which may as well make that pitch. If you're interested in writing, you're interested in doing a podcast, you're interested in contributing in any way, I could always use some help on the social media front. Reach out to me. I'm happy to help you out. You can find me pretty much AFL Slasher anywhere. If it's social media, AFL Slasher, you should find me. So, yourself, Tim?
If you want to find me, you can find me over on X and Blue Sky, and that's at Repact. That's REPPACT. And if you're interested in other alternative forms of football, you can follow my Montreal Alouettes podcast, and that's head over to www.alouettesflightdeck.ca.
And then, of course, Arena Fan.
Yeah, well, all things stats is over at Arena Fan. Yeah, yes. arenafan.com.
Which is, that's our go-to anytime we get anyone that has any historical, or looking at games, past games, players. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly over there looking up the players, like, oh man, who was that guy? Where did he play again? Bam. It's my first and only source every time.
Oh, so, yeah. That's what I did. That's what I was doing with the deuces. That's what I was doing with the drop kicks. I had to see if we could find something there. And lastly, I think before we finish tonight, just this past week, just this week itself, actually, the 39th anniversary of the test game for arena football occurred. It is hard to believe, Scott, that next year will be the 40th anniversary of the very first game that Jim Foster created.
And that's wild that it's been around that long. And most people don't realize that, this is 40 years old. This, it's gone through iterations, and this is, 3.0, 4.0, whatever you want to call this version. It's still here. The game is still here in one form or the other. It's highs, lows. It's hard to keep this game down.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Through good and bad, thick and thin. If it wasn't for the game of arena football and Jim Foster, we wouldn't be talking right now.
Exactly.
Nobody would. Indoor football or arena football. Nobody.
Well, Jim and Jerry and Bill Nero. I mean, for all three of them, it really took all of those guys to get to where we are today, and to still have those guys, at least Jerry, still involved. I'd like to see their two kind of come back, at least in some form. At least make an appearance here or there. We might have to reach out to Jim, see if he'll come on with us one night.
Yeah, for sure. The guy is. You and I both know the dude has stories for days.
Oh yeah, he can fill up some airtime for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. For those who, if you're watching the show, already, but I mentioned anyways, the two teams that played in that very first game, in that test game, was the Rockford Metros, and it was the Chicago Politicians.
Oh man, I went to when they played, then the Chicago Rush played a couple games up in Rockford.
Yep.
I had to go. That was one of those. I'm like, I don't know if this game's ever going to be played back where it started again.
Yeah.
I've got to go see, so I made the trip up because I actually played in the Barnstormers, so it worked out really well at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's like, I had to go up and see that game. And that was appointment viewing for me. Like, Again, just to see
I
it
agree with
there.
you. I agree with you. Yeah, because that place that building does have quite a bit of history when it comes to the game of arena football. I agree with you.
Yeah, same thing with they played a scrimmage at the barn. As the last time arena football was played inside that arena, I guess it's arena, before they made it into an office convention complex and floored it off. So
Mm,
it wasn't full game. The walls weren't up, but you know what? It was a Wednesday night. I drove 3 hours up to Des Moines. I have to see, because I never got to see Kurt Warner. I never got to see the old Barnstormers there. So I had to make that trip to just see a game played in that building one last time.
it was a mecca. It was a
Yeah.
mecca back then. I never got to see a game in Des Moines either.
Yeah. It's, you know what? It's not what it once was, but it's still a good time when it comes down to it. You know,
Exactly.
so anyway, I'm excited for this week. I'm really excited for that Billings game. I think that's going to be the one I'm going to have circled this weekend more than anything.
Yep. And we'll see what. It's funny to say which Albany team shows up this week when the circumstances are different. But I'm sure, as you and I both know, Coach Ware will have that team ready to play.
Yeah, they're not going to lay down for anybody this season. So they
Nope.
clearly had something to prove after last year, and they're making a point. So
Yep. Exactly.
So
Cool.
well, until next week.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for Dean for joining us early on.
For sure.
Great dude. Great talking to him. And yeah, we'll have to start rounding up, getting ready for next week. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Tim. And we'll see you then.
Yep. My pleasure. Bye, everybody.
Touchdowns, tackles we discuss. Feel the rush, come join